right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from Sales Pop, online sales magazine and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm joined by Tim Bradley, who's over on the other coast in Massachusetts. How you doing, Tim?
Great. Definitely not as sunny here. It's about a high of like 20, and my driveway is about
it's been
2 inches of ice.
it's been a beautiful sunny day. We've had some rain recently, but it's back to our normal weather. And Tim is the co-founder of Pennant Video, a B2B focused agency that has pioneered the video marketing trifecta to power mid-funnel marketing strategies. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to use video content to enhance mid-funnel marketing strategies. So, and Tim, let's just get straight into it. What do you mean by the video marketing trifecta? What are the three prongs?
Sure. Yeah, I love that. I'll preface by most, anyone who's looking to produce video as like a word, it tends to, overthink it or cram all of the information for everyone, for every audience, all into one compressed, format, right? And while there's, of course, no silver bullet, video is the preferred medium by audiences everywhere, right? On all platforms. So for that reason, you need to really focus your efforts on those audiences' needs effectively to make decisions, right, along their journey with your brand. So the video marketing trifecta is a framework to help marketers best establish that and help their audiences, down the proverbial funnel of their buyer's journey, right? So specifically, the video marketing trifecta is comprised of three types of videos that effectively evoke and answer the questions why, what, how, and who and where to help brands differentiate, demonstrate, and validate what they do. These types of videos are anthems. Anthems help differentiate brands from their rivals and competitors, help showcase the why of why they exist, why the audiences should care. Explainers help demonstrate your value propositions, your hardware, software, whatever it is that you stand to exist, showcasing how it works and what it does. Then, of course, endorsements are the last prong of the trifecta. These are really your validators. Right. Customer stories, their testimonials, right? So is that the last sort of like trust factor to help really build that buyer's decision.
So what goes into a good Anthem video? Because I feel like as you were outlining that, I kind of feel like, as you said, I kind of feel like sometimes people try to squeeze all three of these into one video, or you have something that's maybe, more Anthem-like, and then it suddenly goes into explainer and then back into, so it makes it. Tell me, what does a good Anthem video look like to you?
Yeah, I like to emphasize that you really speak to like the hearts of the audiences, right? So in the sort of buyer's journey holistically, advertising or some sort of top of the funnel marketing has transpired, right? Like you've sold a click. Now these folks are these potential buyers are ideally on your website or your landing page or whatever, right? And they of course want to learn more. And we often say that anthems and explainers are kind of two sides of the same coin. But to answer your question, anthems really speak to the hearts and the passions and the sense of purpose that your prospects have that best align and are ideally like reflected in your own brand purpose and mission, right? So, people call them, they can be called hype videos or, mission-driven videos, but really the pieces that, in a very succinct way, like 60 seconds or less, ideally, right, really speak to the hearts and the passions of your prospective buyers.
And it sounds like to me that, as you kind of mentioned, that this is something that you don't want to overthink that or try and put too much into it, make it too long, try to make it too. And I guess the other part too, Tim, is it has to speak authentically for you, right? Because I've often, that's the thing that kind of drives me crazy sometimes is, and it's not just video, it's just in general marketing. It's when a brand, pontificate something, sticks what I call bumper stickers on their website about, we're customer centric, or we're this or we're that, but your engagement with them would tell you a completely different story, right? So it's completely at odds. So I presume when you're doing your anthem, it really needs to have that authenticity and really needs to be you.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, and that's the thing we're striving for with that word differentiation, right? Is like really trying to help your brand stand out among myriad rivals that you have, right? And so the best way to do that is to really hit home in the sort of values that you embody, and that sense of purpose and drive to help your audience, your prospective buyers, in their own professional journeys, right? And to succeed in their own right in whatever, again, sort of hardware, software, platform situation your business is driven by.
And then like we're saying, like, speak in your true voice. Because again, I see sometimes today, like, people get carried away and think, oh, I need to be edgy, or I need to be funny, or I need to be wacky, or I need to be this. And you just go, that's not your brand. And to be honest, that's not what I'm looking for. I want, I'm looking for, sometimes I'm looking for a serious company. So if you're doing this, I'm going, are you the right company?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the anthem is really that, like, pure embodiment of brand, of messaging and positioning, and your best sort of representation in this medium that is really complex in the best ways, right? In sound, in visuals, in tone, in pacing, right? So all of that should really be the best, like, reflection of your brand in 60 seconds, right? And so that's why it's like such an awesome exercise, because it really helps, like, distill a lot of this information. It really helps congeal and align internal stakeholders on that mission and purpose, right? And it becomes really that flagship asset, is what we call it, that blue chip asset that can be really impactful for, of course, the marketing in that buyer's journey, but it's really powerful for sales to hit the, to establish the sort of precedent of what this meeting is about. It's really impactful for recruiting. So it's very versatile in that way. And so you sort of mentioned this earlier. It's like, it should be a very thoughtful and important investment, because it does compile all of these, like, very important functions of your brand, and distilling it down to that sort of really mighty, like, 60 seconds that resonates.
Yeah, and I always feel that that's the thing that a lot of people who've never worked in marketing or don't understand, that it sounds simple, right? Oh, distill a minute long video and distill your message down. Don't realize that distilling down is the hardest thing to do. We're fantastic. We could do an hour long, probably. We could do a Gone with the Wind long version of our anthem video if we wanted. But getting it down to what really matters, that is hard.
It absolutely is. Yeah. And for folks who maybe don't know the sort of, like, word count, sort of speech to minute type of situation, it's like, we're talking like 150 words, right? Like, how do you really break that down? So oftentimes, brands have their sort of mission statement or their value statement. And as us as producers, that's a really good jumping off point, because that exercise of distilling that information down to its sort of, like, most pure, authentic form is a great jumping off point for script development.
And then moving on to explainer videos, because again, I feel like this is an area where it can run the gamut to being very effective to being not so much. And what goes into an effect from your point of view? What is an effective explainer video, kind of at a high level?
Yeah. So in that sort of buyer's journey, right, that would be the next touch point in theory. So this is like, okay, your prospective buyer has learned about you, heard of you, been referred to you. They've landed on the site. They've learned more, and they're aligning themselves from a purpose and mission standpoint with that anthem, right? And now they're curious. They're like, all right, well, what is it that you exactly do, and how does it work, right? And so it's the same. It's another sort of carrot on the string, on the proverbial string, to, like, draw them closer to your brand. And ultimately, this is a very good moment for that call to action, to, like, get to demo or to request, to talk to sales or whatever the situation is, right? But an explainer video, same thing, should really be that tight sort of, like, we always target 90 seconds, right? Like, give just enough to showcase how this solves usually the most common pain point or two, sort of depending on the industry and the buyer situation, right? But really showcasing that situation of where that your product or service best aligns with that brand's mission, or sorry, that brand's functions, right? take an example of like right now we're working with a healthcare, a very prominent global healthcare company, and they have this new infrastructure for clinicians inside of huge hospital systems, right? So like very complex hardware software scenario that involves IT and clinicians and all sorts of key stakeholders in sort of the buyer's situation, right? So for us, that explainer needs to really talk to the single most best audience like profile, right? That really establishes like they're the ones that are living this sort of pain or conflict that they're trying to like resolve, and targeting them as the audience, you can build out your playbook towards like, again, tone, sentiment, what are the right word choices, do we need specific industry jargon or not, right? Like sort of how do you finesse this? And again, it's like that 90 seconds should really have a nice arc of like challenge situation, sort of helping your audience understand like, oh, they get me, right? And like, cool, this is how this fits functionally into my life to improve it, ideally.
Yeah. And again, I mean, just to clarify for people, when you're doing an explainer video, now this isn't a how-to training video, right?
Nope.
And I think sometimes
a demonstration, right?
I know, and sometimes they stray into that, and then you're losing the people. And the other thing you mentioned there is the arc, and I think that's something that sometimes people overlook. That it has a logical, beginning, climax and ending. A lot of times you see they just trail off, right? It's just suddenly it's like it's over.
Right. Or they're trying to be like, it solves this problem and this problem and this problem and this problem, this problem. And it's like it just gets noisy, right? So really being very clear to the most common pain point solution sets is our most sort of like effective way to do it. And to be clear, like if you're a large company, you have many products or solution sets, and each of those respectively need their own, right? And like even ones tailored towards industries are really powerful because you're just like creating that trust further up in the journey, right? So just like makes it much stronger, and ideally, sales cycles are much shorter because this asset, this tool, this video is doing the work it's supposed to do on your behalf.
Yeah. So in other words, you're saying you're always better to do more videos than try and cram more stuff into an existing one.
Correct. And that's where like, a strategic partner in that way is helpful to help you advise like, like these support your sales functions in this way most concretely, or like this is where you're trying to grow or expand in 2025. These are the tools that can help you do that. So sort of help roadmap it while also being very like effective and efficient towards what's been recorded or created or designed to like be amplified, to be like repurposed thoughtfully across your greater ecosystem, right?
And I think it's a good. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to even be maybe take it a step further, is like this trifecta, this video marketing trifecta, is a framework to like assure that these three assets, like at a minimum, are telling your entire brand's like story, right? From your why to who and where, all of it, right? So beyond that, of course, like video is such a flexible, robust medium for like all the visuals and all the writing and all the components that go into it that can now be dispersed or cut down, or whatever word you want to use, across all of your myriad channels and designs too, right? So it's such like a workhorse of a medium.
And what makes for good testimonial videos? Because I mean, I feel oftentimes like getting video, especially getting video testimonials, is difficult enough as it is, right? I mean, it's getting easier. I think people are getting a little more comfortable, like customers, in doing those. But it's always been something where it takes a little work to get people. Therefore, you tend to kind of settle for whatever you get. So what makes for a good testimonial?
I mean, really the story, right? So to your point, I mean, here we are now remotely doing this. Like, it is very accessible to ask someone to, do a remote recording, and all that is totally fine. But it is also like table stakes. People kind of just expect it. Like, of course you should have said those testimonial sets on your site. It's like part of marketing 101, right? But the depth that we like to go, you can call it cinematic or whatever, right? But really like let the visuals do a lot of the talking, and like be on the ground, be living the day in the life of this sort of, hero, this customer
Yeah.
hero, right? So we're working with a brand right now where we're doing 3 global stories. It's going to take us to like Australia, probably Germany, here in the States, right? And like the strategy towards that holistic approach is like, great, how do these individual stories align with our brand's overall goals, right? But obviously keeping the buyer, prospective buyer in mind, and like how can these individual stories talk to different pain point and solution sets, talk to different industries, talk to different sort of maturities of their own business, right? So like, again, the audience can see themselves and put themselves in the shoes of this particular customer hero. And then they see how, in this case, it's software, how it fits into their greater ecosystem, right? And like seeing it from, ideally, we're working with two interviewees, one that's using the product in the day to day, and one that's more like C-suite or whatever, that's driving the business. And so you get the two sides of that story as well. So it's just being, storytelling is sort of a loose word, right? But that is really it. And it takes care and time to like have those pre-production interviews to like assure everybody's not only just aligned and expectations are set, but that we're asking the right questions that like drive home the real like core of these stories, and then build shot lists and visual, just sort of all the planning around that to make it as like visually interesting as possible for the audience too. Because like one thing I'll say, this is most particular to testimonials and endorsements, I think, is that like your audience can immediately tell how much production value you put behind these assets, and therefore how much care you're putting into these relationships with your customers, right? So it's like, sure, you could do a Zoom in this way, but it's like, could you do more? Should you do more? It just enriches that client relationship, and therefore when a buyer sees this, they're like, oh wow, like they really care about their customers, right? And like let's just makes that trust even stronger at the end of the day.
And this is one other thing you touched on earlier, and I just want to come back to just for everybody is we all know video is important, but I think sometimes people don't understand quite how important. Number one is YouTube. Second, it's the search engine behind Google. It's the one that's used the most. I mean, people sometimes don't even realize, when you even today when you say, you do realize YouTube's the search engine, and they're like, well, it is. You're going, oh yeah, it is. Second off, Google SEO and all of that are now promoting video much more than they used to, and now we have AI coming into the mix. And, that's AI was serving up a lot of video content or content taken from videos. So just talk a little bit about how the importance of video is increasing even beyond what people may have assumed in the past.
Yeah, all excellent points. And I'll start with the AI one, where it's like AI, Google Gemini, and it just sort of, all of it makes the top of the funnel that much more like quick, and people can get the initial information that they need like so easy. Like research is like a couple keystrokes now versus like hours, right? So it's like now your prospective buyer is savvy and then they're arriving at your doorstep, and they want to be assured that you're authentic to all the things that you're saying you're doing, that your leadership is embodying the mission, that the all the engineers or whatever it is behind the scenes are all working really hard on your behalf as that buyer, right? So video as a medium is like the most, I'm obviously biased, but like the most like effective way to showcase that authenticity, right? And again, like this framework I'm talking about is for the middle of the funnel. Bottom of the funnel is also very important, right? So it's like the nurturing, the thought leadership, the events, the the employer branding, like all that really is enriching that now customers experience and interaction, and ideally affinity with your brand, right? So yeah, it's like the most brands that we work with have internal teams, like 2, 3, 10 person video and creative teams that are in-house, and those teams are working really, really hard on that bottom of the funnel continuous drumbeat, and like showcasing the people to like prove humans work there, prove the authenticity, right? And so it's really important for that entire buyer's journey from top to bottom to lead with video as much as possible, right?
Yeah, and like you were saying, it's so important now. It's really AI is leveraging a lot. And there's one thing though. Here's one last thing: is like obviously there's a lot of tools out there. That even AI tools come out and say, "Oh, we'll create your video for you." I would really encourage people work with somebody like Tim or an agency like that, because yeah, you can make videos relatively easy. You can find somebody on Fiverr or Upwork who can create videos for you, but it's like everything else in life. It's the thought and planning that goes into it that makes ultimately a great video. If you just give some people like information and say, go create this video, yeah, you'll get a video, but
Yeah,
whether it's an effective one is another
correct.
matter.
Yeah, the word I use a lot is just care, right? Because again, your
Mhm.
audience can see how much care you've put into your marketing assets and collateral and content holistically, right? And like the last thing I encourage our clients to always consider is like, sure, we're making or creating these like really important, impactful flagship assets for
Mhm.
you, but you've also invested in now the library of all of those
Yes.
visuals, right? That can be
Yeah.
repurposed, and that's yours. That is your brand inherent. Like no one can take that from you in
Yeah.
that way, right? So like to your point for using AI or using stock, it's like invariably you will see that footage in other industries
Mm.
and even in your
Yeah.
competitive
Yeah.
content, and that's not helping you differentiate, right?
Yeah, no, we've all done that in the past, and it is funny when you go, "Oh, look, yeah, I remember using that." That's the same thing you see, and you'll see sometimes you even see that stock footage in like a commercial on on TV or on streaming, and you go, "Wow, they're using that that footage."
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. No. Well, this has been great, Tim. Thank you so much for those insights. All of Tim's information will be below this video, but before we go, please do tell people a little bit more about you and Pennant Video.
Yeah, so as I've largely talked about, right, Pen and Video, we're a middle of the funnel focused video marketing agency, largely servicing brands that embody safety, security, and sustainability as part of their mission. A lot of that's in the B2B sector. And yeah, you can find us at pennant.video or pennantvideo.com. And we have a free video marketing playbook that we have on our website. Maybe I'll send you the link to that too, so people can
Yeah,
download
please.
directly. But it really speaks to this buyer's journey from top to bottom and how video marketing can really be infused and support your goals for 2025.
Excellent. Well, listen, thanks again, Tim. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.